Hey there. In this interview that you'll see today, I talk with Felix Wild of Come Home Life Coaching, who is here making the world a better place by being himself and helping others to find their way home back to themselves. We talk about being born on a cusp, why we're feeling composting energy, helping us to end an era of our lives, both on a personal and collective level, in order to plant new seeds for new beginnings, how Capricorns age young, psychic signatures in the natal chart, and holding space for others through their pain. I was definitely tapping into the Aries energy with Felix because I just dove into Felix's chart. I was so excited. I didn't even wait. I was just like, by the way, here's a moon thing going on in your chart. So this episode is absolutely a practical lesson in Aries and very strong Uranus energy, which Felix and I both share. So watch and observe and be entertained. Aries often just jump right in and then figures things out later. And Uranus is just all over the map. So I take full responsibility for all of that. I did all of those things. So for any, also just a technical note, for any astrologers or technical astrology buffs and students out there, I do refer to the progressed moon meeting the natal sun as a progressed new moon, and it is not. I do clear this up by the end of the episode, but just wanted to give a disclaimer up front when you hear this. So anyway, if you're not a technical astrology buff, you can enjoy the episode too. If you have questions for me or for Felix, put them in the comments. Would you like to see us have a live conversation? Are there more questions that you have about the chart? Are there questions that you have for Felix? Felix is definitely my new bestie. We've had a session too, a coaching session. I did a coaching session with Felix. Felix is amazing and definitely one of my new besties. And by the end of the episode, I think that Felix will either be your coach or one of your new besties, even as Wendy Williams says, friend in my head. So one of those will probably be true for you by the end of the episode. I hope you enjoy. All right, here we go. Welcome to On Thriving. I'm your host, Taylor Schuler. I'm an astrologer, and I'm here to give you your horoscopes, interviews, and astrology readings with changemakers to help you enjoy your life and take practical action in making the world a better place.
Hey, everybody. Welcome, Felix. Welcome, friends. So I've got the wonderful Felix Wild with me today. Felix Wild is a spiritual life coach living in the Pacific Northwest. They are the owner of Come Home Life Coaching, who serves clients with mental, emotional, and spiritual needs, from memberships to energy work, tarot readings, and herbal energetics. He takes a harm reduction approach to all of life's circumstances. Come home to yourself. You've been waiting for all your life, and I'm wanting to too.
Yes.
Right. So
yeah.
Thank you so much, Felix, for being here with me today. I'm so excited about our conversation. I actually just got like full body chills.
Thank you. Me too. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah. Thank you. So also because, I know you've got the spiritual life coach. If you feel comfortable and called, I just want to let you know that you have my complete consent to share whatever comes through if things come through. So okay. I just wanted to put that out there. Maybe not, but like,
I love
just
that.
wanted to open the door.
Yes, I love that because I'm really big on consent. Before I start with any members or things like that, I have a whole consent form and things like that. So you just giving me that verbal consent, I'm here for it. Everybody is hearing it. We're saying yes to it. So yes, yeah. Into it. Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. So on this type of episode interview, I like to talk with folks about basically how we make the world a better place and how we do that based on our own life experiences, right? And then we end up looking at our natal charts, and through that, we can sort of tell a story. We come to this crossroads in our life, and then stuff hits the fan and we have a choice to make. Do things the same way that we've always been doing them, or do things differently and tap into some information that might not have been available with where we came from, but is part of our journey forward. And so I love to talk with folks about what they found along their journey. And right before we started recording, I mentioned that you're having this really interesting, wonderful, beautiful transit go on in your chart right now. So it's actually called a progression. And I would love to just talk about that with you for a minute.
Yes. let's get it. Let's be vulnerable. Let's get in there.
Yes, and I love it. I love it from the Aries energy. So
Yeah.
I want to show the chart, but I also just want to talk for a minute about what it is. And so what I saw in the chart, and my eyes might be looking different ways because I'm playing with the chart right now, but excuse me, what I saw was something called a progressed new moon. Mm. And so what a progression is, it's an advanced timing technique that we use as astrologers to see when things in our life might happen, when the energies change, when our emotions change, things like that. Mm-hmm. And what we do with that technique is we always start with the natal chart. We start with the birth chart, which is the moment you were born and the exact time and location that you were born in. And then in this technique called progressions, we move the chart ahead one day from your birthday in that year for every year that you're alive. So every birthday, when you're 1 year old, we move the chart forward one day. When you're 10, we move it forward 10 days. When you're 30, we move it forward 30 days. And then that becomes sort of a picture of who you are and who you've evolved to become and grown to become. So Felix is now, can I say your age? Is that okay? Because I'm going to share your charts. We'll figure it out.
It's a fine. Yeah, no, it's fine. I'm a weirdo who likes getting older. So I'm one of the rare breeds. It's like, I've done some things and here I am.
Of course you do, because you've got some good Capricorn energy. Mm-hmm. And like all fine wines, there we go. There's that aging component. Yes. So Felix, you are 35 now. You just had a birthday, which is fabulous. So congratulations. It's a pretty big year in life, as I think we all kind of feel, but also just in astrology for different reasons. I'm getting on a tangent. I won't go down that road right now.
It's okay.
But it's a very powerful year. And so we move your chart forward 35 days to see your progressions. And what happened 35 days after you were born is the moon in the sky on that day met the place where the sun was on the day you were born.
Oh, I have chills.
So just like every month, we have a new moon when the moon meets the sun. When we look at your birth chart and then we put the progress chart on top of it, we can see that the moon met the sun. And so in your life now, you're having this symbolic new moon. You're having this symbolic, and in a new moon, you have a new opportunity to start anew, to start fresh, to see new things. Mm. And also what that means is that for the 5 days before that new moon and the 5 years before now, the moon was in what we call the balsamic phase. It was losing light. It was being very dark. It started composting. Things needed to be let go. Doors needed to be closed. Things needed to end. And it's really, really hard. Now I just got chills again because I've just been through the same thing. So, it's not easy. It's not easy to talk about. It's not easy to be there. But I bring it up because this is that crossroads it's one of them. Like there's many different ways that we can get to this crossroads in life. But one of them is this composting that needs to happen because we need to make room for new things in our life. And there's so many.
I just wanted to say that just for a second, I love that you called it composting, because a lot of people think of it as I have to throw these old parts of myself away. And I think it's like composting is layered, and what is all this nitrogen and things that are just breaking down and smelly eventually turn into like the blackest soil. So what I get that visual of is it's almost like it's like going forward, but also reflecting back at the same time.
Absolutely. Going forward and reflecting backwards. And, people can come and go. And we sort of get this sense like when that in that 5 years, and especially in the 2.5 years, like I need to do something new. I need to make a change. I can't do this thing anymore. I got to start something new. But when we try to start something new before that new moon hits, it kind of like, it doesn't really have the energy that it needs. We don't have the energy that we need to keep it going. But we've put those seeds in the ground. Then after the new moon, they have a chance to really start putting down the roots under the surface, because the moon still doesn't have light. for a couple days after the new, I mean, not a couple days. I mean, the first 3 days you start to see a little bit, but that's really when the seed is putting those roots underground, and we still think that there's nothing there. But in fact, very soon the seed germinates.
Yes. Yeah. There are volunteers later on that we forgot about. And then, oh, here they are. Yeah.
Exactly.
I feel
exactly.
that is absolutely, I'm like, are you reading my diary? Because that feels exactly like the continuum of the last 5 years, and then the 2 year mark, especially with, the panini and with the world shifting and a lot of things like that. So yes,
Yeah.
I would absolutely agree.
So to share more, if you will, just like, what do you feel like has been like a major experience, or like, the panini pandemic, like what has it been for you? What challenge have you faced? Because I think it's really helpful for people who might be going through something similar if they listen and then
Yes.
look at their chart and realize, hey, I'm there too. Like,
Yes.
what are some of the experiences that you've had?
Beautiful question. Let's see. In we'll just keep it in the 5 year span because
Okay.
staying on topic, but definitely through my life have had a lot of rites of passage, we'll just say. And in the last 5 years, it's really been career driven, actually, which it leads me to where I'm in this transitional phase now and calling something else in, which is exciting and nerve wracking and is a complete life shift and adjustment. So, with that said, I for the last this January will be 13 years that I've been in the body piercing industry, and I really started to get into body piercing initially for these sort of like rites of passage and holding space for people through their pain and saying, you can get through this. And I've stopped being a body piercer probably in the last 3 to 4 years. I've done more management and behind the scenes and counter, and have gone from really terrible quality jewelry, poking holes in the middle of the night in New York City, to kind of moving around the country and having different experiences and living out of a suitcase for a while, all these cool things. And then kind of ending up through a series of amazing possibilities, ended up at a couple of really great studios. I'm now an APP member, which is a part of the Association of Professional Piercers. So, kind of like a piercer union, so to speak. I don't know if we're called that, but, we definitely carry high quality jewelry. It's going to be implant grade materials, solid gold, things like that. So I have really changed in that time from, and part of why I do need to shift out of it is when I first started, it was really more about spirituality, rites of passage, especially as I was being a more of like a body piercing practitioner. I would get in the room with people, and people would come to me and say, oh, I really need a navel piercing. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's summer, it's fun, it's navel piercing time. We get back in the room and they're like, I need to break up with my boyfriend and I don't know how to do that. And I'm like, okay, you'll be surprised what people tell you when they're about to be in a lot of pain, by the way. People tell you all sorts of things. I've heard of, I'm having an affair. I don't want to be in this, or what? I got this piercing and I'm reclaiming myself after a really abusive relationship, or I graduated from something or other. So, holding the space for people through that pain was not exactly what I thought it was when I was in my early 20s. It really changed over time. And eventually, that led me to a couple of studios where I became really like one of the top dogs at each, place, and, really like mastered, uh, just selling without selling and connecting with people and selling multi-thousand-dollar tickets, and with people saying, I don't need to know my price. I had a good experience with you. I'll figure it out. We'll do the bill at the man. I'm like, okay. So, so going from that and understanding that, a person could buy a tiny little piece of jewelry or a little and value that so much and pay hundreds of thousands of dollars. And eventually, over time, I have kind of been in the mindset of, I don't think that piercing is the avenue for me right now to do that. I think I'm shifting this consciousness into, instead of selling a product, I don't want to be selling anything. I want people to be I want to be in a space where I can help people connect with what their highest good is, more than just here's a product, here's a quick fix, which I think is why it's important for people like you and I to be doing this kind of work, because as we're tapping into those sort of esoteric modalities, we are able to have clients walk away with something that's so much more enriching than just this piece of jewelry or just this item that I purchased that I can take home. It lasts longer. It's not a cosmetic change. It's a root change. It's a lifestyle shift. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So with doing all that, of course, that was really wonderful. And of course, I want to tell you all the great things. And then it also burnt me out. And doing high-end, high experience, high class, high volume, giving everybody a proper service, but seeing 60 people in a day at that level just burned me out. And between that and just some interpersonal stuff that would, of course, come from what I would call like a group of adults who really need to, some of the people in the industry really need some healing, and that was very apparent.
Yeah.
And so through a combination of that, just shifting into realizing no amount of money can keep me in this kind of abuse. And though I was making a lot more money in different parts of my life, I was like, I'm not happy. Like, I'm literally coming home, I'm having panic attacks, and I ended up in the hospital. I thought I was having a heart attack, and I had an overnight stay. It was really scary. And I thought that was it. And that was when I knew, like, no, I have to scale back. I have to shift. And so now I'm in a transitionary phase between this world and the other world. But with every tarot pool, with every person I talk to, it's confirmation of, yes, keep walking in that direction. Yes, like this is the right thing. And like, yeah, I definitely feel the Aries fire behind it of like, but we're getting there. It might take us a while, but we know how to like put another log on the fire and keep it going. So
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm sorry for the difficult things that you've been through. And I think a lot of people can relate, especially in our generation, for so many
yes.
different reasons.
Yes.
Real, tangible, and astrological. And the thing that I've been hearing is that shared experience is the burnout that we've all been feeling,
Yes.
the pandemic, the great
Yes.
resignation. And so we have all been composting in terms of our jobs and our daily work. And you're also sharing about these experiences where you've held the space for people to heal.
Yes.
And before the panini, it was about, when people would get into a room and they were about to be pierced, they were about to potentially feel some pain for whatever reason, they would let what was painful come out. And now I feel the pandemic, from your story, it's like the pandemic has done that for us on a collective and individual level.
Yes, I would absolutely agree. And I would even say that the people who are still coming for piercings, a lot of them are in this space of, I just needed to feel in my body again, or I just needed to I just quit my job, but I'm getting a piercing. And it's like, cool. So it's almost like I see it happening on like a small individual level of people shifting and changing and catching that wave and realizing we are made for more than just what we've allowed ourselves to be.
Absolutely. And so you also mentioned that folks now are telling you, what you're doing is the right thing, go for it. So tell us all a little bit about, because we'll get into it when we look at your chart, but I want to hear you say, what is it that the gift that you're currently sharing with the world that's informed by the experiences that you've had and what you've learned along your journey?
Yeah, perfect. So I am the owner of Come Home Life Coaching, which is really wonderful. It is a place where people come to whatever it is. It's like, if you want to get something done, we can make that happen. So what that basically means, especially from a spiritual perspective, is my members go through kind of a rite of passage, and everybody has sort of a different thing that they're doing, and they come to me for different reasons. So a couple of like real specifics generally are, I'm having a really hard time in my relationship and I just need to know what is best for my highest purpose. Or I really want to get more in touch with my everyday spiritual living or my esoteric side or my witchy side. And I need concrete plans on how to actually make that happen, because I think a lot of us feel that there's this spiritual part that's outside of ourselves, and so like, how do I make that tangible? And then a lot of times also people are just coming because they're like, I need clarity, I need to feel achievement, I know that there's something that's better, and I feel like I'm almost living a double life, and I know that I could, but I just don't see a way in how to get there. So those are kind of the, you know, the overarching things. But essentially, I help people remember who they are. Like if I could just say it in one sentence, it's just, I don't know how long that takes because everybody is different, right? Which is why I have this sort of like open membership, like, let's come and do the work, and I'm not going to keep you here forever, because I love talking myself out of a job too, where I'm like, everything's done, you look great, you come back for maintenance, bye, cute, you know, like, I don't, if you don't need to be here, but let's do the work when we are here. And like, I don't know what that is, because a lot of times what ends up happening is sort of this, like, first we have to start with awareness. What are you thinking? What are your thoughts? Let's just catch up to ourselves for a moment. And how are we self-sabotaging, or how are we limiting our beliefs? And a lot of times those things are absolutely legitimate. So, you know, some of those things are like, I don't have access to this thing, or, you know, I don't have privilege in this way, or a lot of factors there. So I think part of it is this validation experience of, I'm aware, I understand the circumstances, I don't like them, and I want something else, and I'm willing to make that shift and change so that I can ultimately move through whatever my set of circumstances are to get to the next phase, which ends up being articulate. So we articulate sort of like what we're wanting specifically. So first you have to go through the human layers of like all these things in the awareness, and then the articulate is, oh, okay, I kind of found my footing, I have confidence, I have this thing. Now we can kind of navigate where we're exactly going and what we're doing. And that could be, uh, you know, I want to buy a house, or I want to make this big investment, or I want to start a company, or I want to start a blog, or I want to whatever, you know, some initiate a thing. Or again, more of those spiritual modalities. I want to go on a retreat. Those retreats feel really pricey. I'm like, okay, well then maybe you don't go on the retreat in 2 weeks from now, but maybe we get you one in a year, and let's figure out how you get to this kind of, you know, so it's kind of like figuring out what that person individually needs. So all of them are sort of curated and customized to a person's individual experience.
I
And
think that's so beautiful. That,
yeah,
and it's so you, like
yeah,
having gotten familiar with your chart, like it's just so you.
yeah. Thank you. I love, thank you for that echo. I appreciate that. And yeah, and then at the end, we just like accomplish, you know, so it's like accomplish. It's like, and sometimes those are little check marks of like, oh, I just needed to clean my house and now I feel so much better. And so sometimes I think people think spirituality is this thing that's, you know, outside of ourselves, but we could literally brush our teeth and have that be a spiritual ritual if you make it an intention. So it all just depends on how you see things.
Absolutely. So I want to actually just dig into your chart and then have you reflect back
Wonderful.
and then share more about it, because I think this is a beautiful start that we have where like we know what you do, we know kind of where you are in terms of like composting and starting something new right now. And I think that the chart can really help us move forward if that
Awesome.
works for
Yes,
you.
I love that. I just
All
wanted
right.
to note one thing, which was
Yeah.
coming up for me in spirit was like, oh yeah, us. And I was like, oh yeah, us, which is I am a medium, so I can talk to dead people, ancestors. I can't necessarily always call a specific. Sometimes it's like somebody will be like, I want to talk to so and so. And I'm like, I don't know who's going to show up, but somebody will show up. We're going to figure that out. So that's, I just somebody was like, me too. And I was like, okay, sorry, I'll tell them.
Because actually, I think that's some of what I was trying to get to. I was like, I kind of want Felix to say the thing about. So let me just get in. So they heard and translated and whispered in your ear.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. I'm going to share the chart. And so we've got the chart here. Beautiful, beautiful chart. And what I wanted to say about it, hopefully that's not all messed up. Of course, I'm moving things around on the screen, which is so fun.
It's okay.
All right, cool. So what's so interesting, so this is the chart. It's a map of the sky the moment that you were born and took your first breath according to a birth certificate or whatever other documentation gave us the time. And I've got April 19th, 1987 at 10:50 a.m. Mountain Standard Time in Tempe, Arizona. And the house system that I'm using here is called Regiomontanus for anyone who might be listening and is interested in viewing the chart. But you can also watch on YouTube and just see it. So what we've got here is a Cancer rising, 29 degrees Aries sun, and a 13-degree Capricorn moon in the 6th house, applying very closely to the 7th house cusp. And that Capricorn moon is conjunct about a 5-degree orb from Neptune retrograde. So that's what we're talking about, but I just wanted to say that out loud for anyone who might be listening and wants to know what we're talking about, what we're looking at here. So what's interesting is Cancer was the zodiac sign, the constellation that was rising in the east the moment that you were born. And we call that the ascendant, we call it the rising sign, and it informs our personality. It's our lens with which we view the world, and it's how other people see us. So even though you're an Aries, this chart is also very Cancerian. And so Cancer is a water sign. And our ascendant tells us about what's most important to us in our life. And with water signs, which are Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio, they're very concerned with emotional security. So whether it's for themselves or others or both, that's a major theme in the lives of Cancer rising for the most part. And Cancer is ruled by the moon, which comes and goes and tides. And so we started off this conversation talking about this progressing moon, which is going to be a pretty big deal for you when you look back. You know, you're already feeling some things that are changing, but when you look back 10 years, 5 years, 20 years from now, you're going to say, yeah, that was a really big time in my life where the tide shifted, because Cancers are the crab. They move with the tide, they move with the moon. And so any shifts with the moon are going to be a really big deal. And so I want to start by looking at the moon in your chart. So like I said, the moon is in Capricorn. Capricorn is a sign of authority and structure and many, many things, sometimes patriarchy or colonialism. And I know we had a conversation before, we were talking about like decolonizing. And I think it's so interesting to have a Capricorn moon, because if you are someone who's aware of these things and who wants to make the world a better place, you are going to have that Cancer Capricorn, they're opposites. It's the matriarchy and the patriarchy. And you're going to come together and say, hey, this isn't fitting and I need to do something about it to change. Moon, change. I need to care deeply about the systems that we work in, the systems that we live in, the systems that we operate in, that affect our bodies, that affect our emotional health. So that's kind of Capricorn moon energy there. And what I heard and what you said before was you're really interested in helping people to become themselves, but I also heard something about helping people to heal, right? So I would imagine that having the moon, the chart ruler, in the 6th house, which is where we find health, it's where we find our daily routines and rituals, it's where we find the work that we do on a daily basis, not necessarily what we become known for publicly, but really like how we live our lives on a daily basis and get stuff done. And it can also, the 6th house is traditionally also associated, I don't want to say ruled by, but it's associated with the sign of Virgo. And we think about those things in terms of nouns and adjectives, really. So like Virgo is an adjective. It's like how we can do things in a Virgo way, but the 6th house is really the noun. It's like the who, what, when, where, why, what we do. So your 6th house is ruled by the sign of Sagittarius, which is a bridge. It's a connector for many different cultures, many different types of people, many different places around the world, around the country, and being able to really be a bridge between people and working with those different people on a daily basis. And it's people who need healing with the moon. It's people who you're working with their body, right? Because of the piercing. But we've got Neptune here as well. Neptune is spirituality. And so there's something in this chart that says the person who holds this chart can break down walls. Neptune is like water that comes whooshing in. It's like the fog. It has no boundaries. And so Neptune's coming in and breaking down these Capricorn walls and structures for people in order to get to those emotions and get to the body. And just you being present, that Neptune moon is like, people just like, you're like, oh yeah, that, you know, people say stuff like, they might do that in regular settings. They really do it with you. And so that's why they're like, I don't care. You created an experience for me that was so profound. And you really did. And you are extremely psychic with that Neptune moon, but even more so because we see Uranus here in the 6th house of work in our daily life. It's actually conjunct a fixed star called, there's a couple here. One is Oculus and one is Acumen. And it's close to this thing called the galactic center, which sounds so cool, which I love. So most people born in like 87, 88, like you and I are, have our Saturn and Uranus at these late degrees of Sagittarius. And so we all kind of have this like psychic thing, but you really have it because at 26 degrees Uranus is called the instantaneous resolution of irresolvable opposites. A teacher of mine, Rick Levine, has coined that phrase. And so it's kind of like, I don't know how I know this, but instantaneously I'm going to get a message. And it's just this divine download that comes through this galactic center. It comes through like this portal that we don't quite understand as human beings on Earth here today, but it's real. It's just the messages come through and it's an instant knowing or showing up of whatever information in whatever form. Wow. And so there's these multiple testimonies here to the really powerful psychic ability that can help to heal people. So I'll just pause there because I know I said a lot.
Wow. Yes. I think I'm just overwhelmed in a wonderful way of just, this is so accurate. And it's, I think that's what's beautiful about reading charts or just about this. You know, we've had a conversation before, but we don't really know each other. And that for you to be able to go at this depth and this level, it's truly a testament to your clients and to just the work that you're meant to do. And also just, I'm getting the download right now and I'm appreciating all of it. And that thing you said about Neptune, about just having no boundaries and just, I thought I kind of got this visual of fog coming in, but it was just, yeah, I think that that's very accurate about just this complete, just, you know, and then the Uranus with the like, Uranus or Uranus? That's
you
another,
say however
that's
you want, you know, it's fine.
Yeah, that's another topic. Like,
yes, which is totally a Sag thing to just like go there, yeah, with it. Absolutely.
But, you know, I felt this sense of I just felt this like big sense of connection and yes. So yeah. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah, thank you for that reflection. So I'll say a couple more things about this Capricorn moon. So Capricorn's like this authority, it creates structure. It can also be a fly on the wall, like very observant and very objective, which makes for a really great leader. So that's why we see a lot of Capricorns are leaders and they're in charge of stuff. Aries too, obviously, and we'll get to your Aries energy. And I don't want to sugarcoat it though. Having a Capricorn moon can be very challenging, and the person who has it can face really emotionally and physically challenging situations in life that are deeply painful, hence that need for creating a structure and security and the strength that's cultivated as a result when that person has the will and the spirit to pull through. And so some of the strongest people can have those Cap moons. And because Capricorn is an earth sign, it gets stuff done and then puts it out in the world. And we'll get to Jupiter later, but you do have here in the chart, the moon is just separating from a square aspect. So it's looking at Jupiter in a way that really eggs it on. Like Jupiter's egging on the moon was just egging on Jupiter to like make big things happen, to start stuff and then to put it out in the world and make it happen in a really big way. And like I said, it is related to like work, our daily routines, our rituals, our habits, our health, our healing, and also information and traits that are passed down to us. Since it is so close to that seventh house cusp, these are the people that you're going to work with one-on-one. And it's also probably related to any partnerships that you have, either like a personal, intimate relationship or a business partner. There would be some themes that carry over there.
Yeah, accurate.
Yeah.
I
So
don't even know. I'm here for it. I'm getting the download.
yeah. And so I just want to say Felix and I had a conversation a few weeks ago that was so profound for me, where I was sharing some things that I was struggling with my own intuition. And Felix held space for me and created this container in a way that I felt so held and comforted. You gave me really practical advice. You put words to things for me. You validated me. I was talking about, I had these feelings and I just have thoughts. And you were like, oh yeah, that's like a kinesthetic psychic ability, and that's claircognizance. And you just explained everything so well. And you also shared with me some really good advice, like we don't get to choose our gifts. And I was feeling afraid, and you were like, of course you're afraid. No one has ever taught you Capricorn structure that already exists, how to do these things. And so that moon, which is ruled by Cancer, like I was saying before, in the Capricorn, see each other in this way that is so sorely needed in the world. And in astrology, there are many astrologers talk about they throw out words like detriment and fall, which are technical terms, but I don't like to hear them. Most people don't like to hear them. But what it really says is that when you have opposites today in this world, in this culture that we live in, if it goes against the norm, it's like, well, how are you going to operate is essentially what it's saying. And I feel from my experience with you, you've really figured out how to make things work that other people don't get and haven't gotten to that point yet.
Yeah. I agree. I think that there's this part of me that's leveled and grounded in the humanness of people, and I like mess, right? I like when people are like, I don't know what to do, I'm like, yeah, okay, totally. It's like, I feel like you just kind of have to go there with whoever. I do that for myself all the time. I'm pep talk in the mirror of like, you're a mess today, it's okay. So but I think that it's part of that is the humanness of the struggle, and that when we slow the struggle down and we look around, we often see, I've been here before, or I've been here somewhere similar, and I can just catch that wave and slow it down and say, oh, actually, this is the thing that's really bothering me, or this is the thing that I actually am wanting, and I it's coming out in this way, this big thing, or this imposter syndrome, or feeling nervous, or feeling overly sensitive, or whatever that is. And then in the end, it's like, oh, that has a lot to do with, I actually haven't been listening to myself, or I haven't been giving myself this need or this want, or valuing myself. So yeah, thank you for that. And I do appreciate that. I do remember saying to you, yes, you have all these gifts, and just part of that is what you just said is like beautiful. It's just like affirming for people. Yes, it is hard to kind of make your own way, because you can have a model of how other people have done it, and I think it's easier to follow that model. And the problem, though, is that when we follow that model so intensely, whatever that kind of thing is, could be job stuff, could be religious stuff, could be, and it becomes, we only see that thing that we're seeing. We only see it through our lens. We don't see it through that bigger perspective of, oh, we're also having a collective experience. And so if I'm having imposter syndrome, or if I'm feeling down for the day, somebody also might be feeling down for the day. And the point isn't for us to like build a camp there and be like, yes, let's like live in the worst parts of ourselves all the time. I think it's like, I see it, I see you, or I've been through it, I've had that experience, or I've heard similar stories, and I'm holding space for the next part of where you're trying to actually go, where you're trying to actually land, not just, yes, I know that these things are true and real, and what else? What more is there?
Absolutely. And you are giving me this transition, which is so perfect, because I was just going to mention your moon phase. When we look at any planet, but especially the moon, we want to look, and especially when you've got a sun in Aries and this beautiful moon here too, we want to look at the phase of the moon. So what relationship is it with the sun? And so you were also born after about a week after an eclipse, because the nodes here show us where eclipses happen. When the sun touches this north node and the moon touches either the north node or the south node, which is down here, that's when we have an eclipse. You can't actually see the nodes in the sky, but they are activated by the sun and the moon, because the light then extinguishes because they're in perfect alignment with the earth. And so shadows are cast, and that's when we have eclipses. So you're born at a really powerful time. And I know it was after, because the moon moves here from left to right. So the moon would have gone from the sun across the ascendant, and then it would have gone to the south node here. And then when you were born, it was over here in the descendant of your chart, and it would have continued later to travel to the sun, which is how I know that you're having your progressed new moon, even though the sun also moved 35 degrees. But anyway, the moon is 105 degrees, what we call behind the sun, because they all move this way. So it's behind the sun. And that is also known as a third quarter moon. So when you see the moon looking like a half of a pizza pie in the sky, that's when you were born. But it would have been, you get two half ones, right? You get it when it's half and the light's on this side, then you get half when the light's on this side.
Oh, that is very accurate.
So you were born with this like half moon after this powerful eclipse in Aries and Libra. And essentially how we interpret this is this person's lifetime. They're here to share and communicate and convey information that you have found to be of value to yourself. And then you share your own experiences of your own truth with other people, and that helps them to learn. It's like you're giving out this information. And so usually these people are not hermits unless they're writing and then like publishing stuff, but these people are out in the world. And that another testimony that we have to that in the chart is your sun at the top of the chart in the 10th house, which is our public life, what we're known for, where we shine. The sun is what's called exalted in Aries. And so it's like fire meets fire. And it's like, hey, I just need to be an individual. I'm going to be unique. I'm going to be me. And it's still close to that north node because they're in the same sign in the same house. And it's like, hey, I got to get more of this. And then there's Jupiter, the planet of expansion and abundance and making things bigger. And Mercury, which is like, let's talk, let's read, let's learn, let's write, let's communicate, like, let's do all the things. And it's like, hey, I can't get enough of like, I got to be me and I got to do big. And not only that, but going back to that Uranus, if you see Uranus is at 26, 34 and the sun's at 29, that's a 3-degree difference of this very supportive, flowing like a waterfall trine aspect. It's like that energy of Uranus is being unique. It's not only that psychic information, but it's, I got to be me and I'm going to be different and I'm going to be unique. And that's an Aries thing. I got to be me. I got to be an individual. I'm going to be unique. And all I can do is be myself. I can't ever be anybody else. And I'm going to teach other people to come home to themselves the way that I learned to come home to my own self.
Yes.
Because that's what I had to learn how to do.
Yes. Wow. That is so powerful. I'm really curious. I don't know what you want to say next, which I don't want to jump in, but not all these thoughts that are coming up. I'm very curious, like what you see. Okay, so when I was younger, I'll say that this really resonates with me now, but really when I was younger, I was much more fiery in Aries, if you can believe that. I've learned to tame it over the years. And so I'm curious because I know that I'm kind of cuspy and I know I lean way more Aries than Taurus, but I know that as time has gone on, I've been a little more like, let's take on the world. But first, a snack and some planning and some sitting in something cute and soft and like getting a perfect journal, so I'm kind of curious, like, I don't know, does she show up anywhere really like in that sort of way? Yeah,
absolutely. I'm going to show you right now. So
okay, cool.
What I did here is I pulled up your progress chart. And so your natal chart's still on the inside and the progress chart is on the outside, so we can compare things. So the sun is the circle with the dot. And what I see basically are a couple things. So for the first after you were a year old, like right, like 11 months old, from the time you were 11 months old until you were 29 and 1 month old, or 11 months, something like that, for 30 years of your life, you were a Taurus because your sun moved from Aries through Taurus. Now your sun is at 3 degrees of Gemini. And what we see is you have your progressed midheaven. So how you show up in the world is at 7 degrees of Taurus. So you're very Taurus there. And Venus, which rules Taurus, is in the sign of Taurus, which is exalted, which is it's there at the top of your chart, ready to be seen, like big energy. And your progressed moon. So that progressed new moon happened at so the sun is at 29 Aries. And so when it hit the sun, it was also at 29 Aries. And that was in April of this year. Since then, it very quickly, like within a month, moved into the sign of Taurus. So even though your progressed sun here is in Gemini, and you're going to still like this composting energy, like you're still going to feel it, because once this moon comes to the progressed sun, once like the progressed moon comes to progressed sun, then you're really having the progressed new moon, but like you're having it also now in many ways because it's come to your natal sun. And so this energy is going to continue of like composting and new stuff and composting and new stuff. And it's just going to kind of keep happening. And for another, basically 2.5 years is when the moon and progressed sun will catch up to one another. Okay. But what we see is that, yeah, you've got some Taurus energy there for sure. And I also think that opposites pull together. And so we're millennials. So millennials are Pluto and Scorpio. And so, yeah, our evolutionary imperative is to become a Taurus. We're supposed to leave the Scorpio behind and to move into the Taurus. And so you feeling that pull is very natural. And it's what we're all supposed to, our whole generation is supposed to be following that direction. And so the fact that you're like already like on it and you don't even like know why is like, you're like light years ahead of our generation. So thank you for leading the way for us. We need to look to you.
Oh my gosh, you're so wonderful. I'm like, please don't follow me. Just you know, good luck.
We all need to slow down and have a snack.
That's true. Take that bit of advice though.
Because life is deep and it's intense. That Scorpio energy, it's like,
yes. Yeah. I love Scorpio. Okay, so what I'm really good at about astrology is like gossip about astrology. So I just felt like we could go there for just. So Scorpio energy with that like dark water, like, oh, we are in the abyss, but it's so lovely. And like, it's very quiet here because I brought you here by myself, you know? So Scorpio is like, I love Scorpios. Okay. Side note. I love Scorpios because Scorpios in general, I've noticed, and please, you know, I've noticed that Scorpios do this thing where they're like, if I care about you and I love you, you're my diehard. I'm there. We are at every practice and every set. I'm at your recital. I'm everywhere. But if they don't carry you, it's over. They're like, I don't care. I'm done. I don't even want to look at your face. Like, I just don't.
Yeah. Because it's too painful. It's way too painful.
Wait, tell me more.
Well, Scorpios feel so deeply. I have a Scorpio moon. And so like you've got this Capricorn moon. And so part of it, and excuse me while I adjust my lighting because my light decided to die on me. But the Scorpio moon feels deeply, and your Capricorn moon is making a supportive aspect to things that are in Scorpio. And so I find that Capricorns and Scorpios will often magnetize to each other, especially because in the context of our society today, Capricorn moons don't quote unquote fit in the way that Scorpio moons also don't fit in. And so those two, and they also have an elemental connection, earth and water. When you put them together, you have fertile ground for planting seeds and making stuff happen. And so that's one thing, but your question was about, why do Scorpios say like, I'm all in or I walk away? Yeah. Well, when you go to like the depths of the ocean or like, you know, Scorpios, like it's fixed water. And so you could think of it as what is fixed water? Like how is water still? Well, it can be ice or it can just be like so deep down that you can't feel the tides moving. And when you're down there, some like, you know, can feel like drowning. Like, and it's
Yeah.
like, I can't do this anymore.
Mhm.
It's too much.
Mhm.
And so like most people are like, what are you talking about? And they're like, I just feel so deeply, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, you gotta
Yeah.
like just remove yourself from the situation because it's like
Yeah.
intense.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's so funny. It's a not funny. It's not funny, haha,
Yeah.
but just interesting that you were like, a lot of people shy away from that energy of it's too much, it's and I've you know, it's interesting because especially with this Capricorn moon slash what you're saying about Scorpio moon is like I do not shame people. I never tell anyone, and I never want to be told I'm too much because
Mhm.
it's almost a like no, that's a little deep for me because you know it's yeah, like allowing myself to take up space and allowing myself also to make mistakes and allowing, you know, clients or the world at large to do the same is I think that when we open that capacity, we get a lot more of an authentic response from people when we say it's okay that you're in like a really deep place. I may not be able to go there all the way with you, but it's okay that you're there, you know? So yeah, just normalizing, hey, it's okay that other people, we don't have to like run away from it and be like, oh no, it's like feelings are scary.
Totally. And I like that. I think that's part of the beauty of your Capricorn moon is like, it can be that objective fly on the wall. Like, hey, I'm just observing. Hey, I'm just giving you some constructive, practical sixth house. Like these are things that you can do to like really support you in
Yeah.
your emotional and physical journey,
Mm.
or spiritual journey with that Neptune there, because it is non-judgmental. It's just like, hey, I'm just saying, like, let's get grounded. Like, let's get out of the swirl of watery emotions and let's just get grounded for a minute and like
Yeah.
make it real, and then you can keep it moving. So I absolutely see there's definitely no judgment with you because you're like, hey, I'm unapologetically my Aries self doing it up big. And
Yes.
also
Yeah.
random question for you with this,
Sure.
like Jupiter North Node, Mercury, I would expect someone like this to have some sort of large library. Can you
um,
confirm? And if you can just like confirm yes or no, you don't have to say what kind of library, but is it true?
it is absolutely true. It's
Yeah.
one of my so I kind of in my blood, I sort of I'm half Romanian and my father was raised by gypsies. And it's really, I have to kind of move around every 2 to 4, since I was 18, 2 to 4 years, I move, I completely, and the worst part is always moving the books because so many people are like, you could digitize this. And I'm like, but it doesn't smell the same. It doesn't feel
It
the
does it.
same. It cannot, no, stop. So yes, a lot of books. And also, you know, through my library, well, my I have a huge section of theater books. I was a theater major in college, and most of my life I thought I was going to do theater behind and on stage. So lots of theater books. I also have, of course, you know, all the tarot, herbalism, so many herb books. I'm also an herbalist. So it's like, you know, then spiritual witchy books. I have a section for like dreams and lucid dreaming and this kind of dreaming and that. And then I have like spell casting and tarot cards and I have all that. And then I also have like social justice section. I have a like a here's how you have sex with all kinds of people section. I have a I have a gender like figure it out and oh there's a lot of ideas here section. I have also I would say a good section of poems, a good just like all sorts of everything from slam poets to Shakespeare.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for
of
sharing
course.
that. Yeah, and I can see that South Node in the fourth house is like, and Pluto down in the fourth house of our home and our roots is like, hey, let's pick it up and let's churn the earth and let's move and let's keep it going. And the South Node kind of pulls the energy. And so it's like the energy of Pluto change, like keeping on,
Mm-hmm,
keeping on.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for sharing that. And I feel similarly with my books. I have
Yes,
digitized, but I also don't have Jupiter, North
smart.
Node, Mercury. So it's not as big deal for me, but
It's smart. It's the right thing to do. I think I think whatever you choose to do
well,
is the right thing. But
yeah,
I get it. It makes sense. Just have it in one place. It makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
I'm old fashioned like that. I want to hold my book.
Yeah, you're a Cancer rising. You like the
Yeah.
traditional, you like the vintage, you like the smell of the old pages and all of
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And your library makes you uniquely you and in an Aries fashion.
Yes. I have to just say this. I don't know why, but there's this bookstore in New York, the Strand, and
Yes.
you go on the fourth floor. Have you been there? Like,
I
it's only
went to the
open certain
Strand growing
hours.
up. Yeah.
Yes. So like on the fourth floor of the one that's in Union Square, it's one of my favorite places in the whole world to be, but it's like third or fourth floor and it's only open certain hours, but it's only antique books and you just get off and it's the whole room smells like old books and it's amazing. And you can definitely feel the spirits up there and yeah, super cool.
Yes, you can. Absolutely. I'm so glad you said that because with the smell comes the spirits,
Mhm.
100%.
Yes. Yeah. Scent is definitely one of the ways that I channel things. So yeah, a scent can come up or a sense memory in somebody. I like, especially if we're doing, really deep work. Some people are like, oh, I smell my so-and-so's perfume, or this person, it definitely smells like their body odor or whatever, or I'm feeling really smelly or, I'm smelling really smelly, I guess. But yeah, that definitely happens a lot with energies and stuff too.
Cool. I love that. That's gonna be like another episode too of like the clairs and also smell
Yes.
and Scorpio and
Yeah.
Taurus and
Yeah. I love.
for sure. So
Awesome.
yeah, just I think to sort of sum it up, it's this chart is really about the journey, or the journey of this chart is really about becoming yourself. And the more that you are yourself, everything around you looks like you, and it's not the same as anyone else's. And like once you know yourself, accept yourself, love yourself, be
Mhm.
kind to yourself,
Mhm.
ask questions about what you really want from your life. Usually this is a really private, intimate journey for people to like do all of this
Yeah.
stuff. And for you, it's
Yes.
like it's
Yeah.
it's been kind of out in the open and
Yes. Yeah.
public. And thank goodness, because other people really need that from you. And that's one of the
Mm.
gifts that you have is sharing this story, sharing your journey, sharing what you've learned, and being witnessed, because it's holding the space in the container with practical wisdom and experience for people who really need it to really be a leader and a trailblazer in many ways with that fiery Aries energy. And I know it's on the cusp, but it's like, hey, like 29 is 29, like, and I know you had that 30 years of Taurus and you're evolutionarily in that Taurus energy, but yeah, you just you are able to be you, and that makes the world a better place.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. It's getting me to think about these points in my life where I remember just even being a younger person or teenager or early whatever it was, and going out and just being in public and having dinner or I mean, so many people have seen this happen, or like, oh, dance clubs. That happens a lot. That would happen a lot there. Like, be out and drinking, be out and having fun, which like I don't really do anymore, whatever. But I would just channel something. It just like come out of nowhere. And I would be like, I don't know the person, I don't whatever. And I have to sit that person down and say, hi, can I tell you something? This is going to be really random, but are you open to some, uh, your so-and-so is still here. And they're like, my so-and-so just passed away, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, well, they are here on the dance floor and they're having a great time with you. And they would just be like, oh my God, that's great. And I'm also crying and I don't know what,
Yes.
So there'd be that, or there'd be like people that would come up to me and be like eating at a restaurant and they would just like be down and out or something, whatever. And they would just latch onto me. It'd be one thing if like, like people would just the way it would happen, it was like like the world would just stop around us and it'd be like a psychic thing. It'd be like and everybody that would be witness to it be like, what just happened? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just a thing that like I didn't choose this, but it sure did choose me. Like people can come up to me and just be like, I almost feel like Christopher Walken in that one movie where you like touch him and he's like, the ice is gonna break. It's like you just know that like things are gonna happen. And definitely this psychic sense. And through time, learning how to say, nope, I have to have boundaries here, spiritual boundaries. I need to go to sleep. Or like, no, that's not your go. If you're a client, if your client's energy, come catch me next week when you have your appointment. So good boundaries there. While also in the place of playing with this gift and trying to find other people to bring us all together in sort of community of saying, it's not so weird anymore that we have these spiritual, how many middle schoolers, right? No matter girl, boy, they, that, who, just how many of us wanted to be witches when we were kids? And how much of we're like, oh, we watch The Craft. We're going to do like sleepover time and light as a feather, stiff as board, right? We're going to do it. Like it's going to happen. So it's like, I think that we have these sort of things, and over time we start to do this thing where we're like, no, we need to have practicality, or we need to have real jobs, or we need to, and I told myself that too, silly me, which was important, right? It gave me enough perspective to go back out in the world and say, oh, this is the language that we're using as humans. And I'm starting to see the layer underneath it of we're being exploited. We're not being utilized in the proper ways where, gosh, like if we took the geniuses, like the scientific people that work on all this stuff about Wall Street and figure out the math and all that, they did that toward like solving world problems. If we did that and we came together, if we came together over the coronavirus, then maybe we would actually have some freaking new solutions instead of constantly being in this or reinventing the wheel over and over again because of scarcity and fear and all that. And so in the end, I guess I'll wrap it up with, I know I have to keep going forward in this because it's less about me doing the work and more just letting people show up to their own best healing and letting people just know that like there is a space for you being, and all of you, no matter what you're doing. You could be at that corporate job, you could be spiritual as fuck, and you'd be able to like walk into that corporate room and like that board meeting or whatever and like put energy over everybody, or like have that like, I'm going to shift the company's mentality because it is time to do it. We can't keep doing these old things. We can't keep, it's not working. We can't do just like a surface level shift. We need to actually be making root change. We need to actually be making like, and let's have real talk about that. So we have to pierce through the language of humans. We have to pierce through our ego. We have to pierce through and say, yeah, those things are real and valid. And also, we're not living our best life until we do that work.
I love it. And it's such a beautiful expression of your Capricorn moon conjunct Capricorn Neptune, and then having Sagittarius, which is all about our joy and having a good time, with Saturn and Uranus, and which is about like how we work. Do we work with joy? Do we work differently? Right. And then in that sixth house of work, and saying, well, you can be Neptune spiritual in at work, sixth house. And how do we do that and break down those boundaries, but hold both at the same time? Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for letting me share your chart and to discuss it. And I just wanted to say, what do you have coming up? How can people engage with you and connect with you?
Amazing. Great. Thank you so much for having me on. This is my first podcast and I'm really excited. And I feel like, I feel like we did a good job. So, we're still
did a good job. You're doing a good job.
Yes. So people can find me through social media. All of my things are Come Home Life Coaching, and through there, of course, like link in bio and all that, through like Instagram, TikTok. I have a website, comehomelifecoaching.com. Basically, what I generally start people with is, if they're interested in services, I start with a free consultation. It's 15 minutes or so. And we talk about, are we a good match for each other? Or maybe I might need to like say, maybe I'm not the right practitioner for you, but I might have somebody, or there's some resources. And so once we kind of like map that out, we sort of talk about, goals and plans and things. And I ask sort of like, do you want a sort of like package of, do you want to like do like 3 months all at once? Do you want to buy this? Or do you want to just be like a continuous, and then we figure it out and talk about, what we, how this unfolds. So yeah, so usually just starting with that. There's a really easy place to do it on my website. There's just like a little, like intro area. You just click on that, you click a free consult, and then we do the thing.
Yeah. You did a fabulous job for your first podcast, and you too. I'm so excited. So thank you so much, Felix. So much gratitude. This is so beautiful. Folks, get connected with Felix. Just go for it. Just do it.
Do it. Do it.
I can't say it.
I'm not scary. I'll tell you this. Like, okay, here's how we're going to end.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people will walk up to me and see me, or and I'm a very masked person in society, so I'm already weird. And then I made my hair purple, so it's like matching.
It's
So
just beautiful, by the way. It's so beautiful.
I love.
Yeah.
So but I feel I'm the kind of person that's like, I look scary and I'm very modified and whatever. But then you start talking to me and it's like, oh, we're like old besties. And like, I just try to live my life like that, I try to act like everybody's my friend, even if we don't agree with each other or like what, I can always find a way to be like, I bet we have something in common that could be kind of cute. So, you know.
Absolutely. You were like the world's bestie. Yeah.
Thanks.
Felix, the world's
I'll
bestie.
try. I'm going to change my name to that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Take good care. Thanks for listening. Bye now.
So I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did. I loved rewatching it. Felix is just amazing. I hope Felix feels like your bestie, IRL or in your head, just like with me. I just wanted to give one last plug. Check out Felix at comehomelifecoaching.com. And this weekend, if you happen to be watching this, Friday, November 11th, I will be talking tomorrow morning. That's Saturday, November 2nd at 11 a.m. Eastern Time for the Sacred Planet 2023, 2024, 2025 forecast event. It's massive, it's huge. There's going to be a ton of astrologers, healers, amazing people there. Definitely check it out. It's probably not too late if you're watching this episode later too. Go to the website. It's 2023-2024-2025 forecastevent.com. You can register, catch it for free live. And I believe you can get the recordings as well if you go check it out any later than that. But I would love if you join me live. I'm going to be doing a really amazing, massive presentation and chat. I'm going to be responding to folks live. And we're going to be talking about the next 3 years and how to make it personal, how I bring permaculture into astrology, how it can make sense in your life to make the astrology practical, and how we can use short-term transits to really connect us to these longer-term transits and goals. So again, thanks, Felix. Love you so much. Check Felix out, comehomelifecoaching.com, and check me out at taylorschuler.com. So I'll see you again next time. Bye now. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of On Thriving. I hope it helps you on your journey to find new ways to thrive and think about how you can use this energy to make the world a little bit better. If you enjoyed the episode, please take a second to subscribe, comment, share, rate, and review, especially on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. It really helps me to reach more amazing people just like you, and I read the comments and reviews. Don't forget to take a screenshot, share it in your Instagram stories, and tag me at Taylor Schuler Astrology. If you're interested in an astrology consultation with me, you can book online at my website, taylorschuler.com. If you're looking for a beautiful short-term furnished rental in major US cities, check out hellolanding.com and use code Taylor_C6I. That's Taylor_C, the number 6, and lowercase letter I when you book online at hellolanding.com for a discount. Love and gratitude. See you again real soon. Bye now.